Summary of Don Quixote. Setting and main character. Don Quixote, the ingenious gentleman Don Quixote of La Mancha, published in two parts in 1605 and 1615, is set in 16th to 17th century Spain during the decline of chivalric culture. The protagonist is Alonso Quixano, a lanky, middle-aged gentleman from La Mancha. Obsessed with reading chivalric romances, he becomes so engrossed that he decides to become a knight-errant to save the world and restore justice. Quixano dubs himself Don Quixote de la Mancha, declares himself a knight, dons rusty armor, wears a battered helmet, and rides a scrawny horse named Rocinante. He chooses a plain peasant girl, Aldonza Lorenzo, as his lady love, imagining her as the noble Dulcinea del Toboso. To complete his knightly persona, he recruits Sancho Panza, a chubby, honest, but slightly greedy farmer, as his squire, promising him governorship of an island. Part 1. The Mad Adventures. Don Quixote embarks on his knightly quests with a mind full of delusions from his books. He sees the world through a chivalric lens. Windmills become giants, dingeons turn into castles, and flocks of sheep morph into enemy armies. Each heroic act leads to chaos, with Don Quixote getting beaten up but still believing he's a hero. Sancho Panza, initially tagging along for profit, gradually becomes a loyal friend. Practical, often complaining about hunger, yet swept up in Don Quixote's passion, he adds humor to their escapades. The duo creates hilarious scenes. Don Quixote charges at windmills, only to be knocked down by their blades, or frees a group of convicts, who turn out to be criminals and rob him. Meanwhile, Don Quixote's friends and family, like the village priest and barber, worry he's lost his mind and scheme to bring him home. They hire a man to pose as a rival knight, defeat Don Quixote, and cage him for transport back to the village. Part 1 ends with a battered Don Quixote returning home, still dreaming of knightly glory. Part 2. Awakening and Tragedy. Part 2, published a decade later, begins as Don Quixote learns of a book recounting his adventures, a nod to Part 1's real-world fame, making him famous but mocked. Undeterred, he sets out again with Sancho, now wiser but still idealistic. This time, they encounter a duke and duchess who play elaborate pranks on them for amusement. They stage fake adventures, like making Sancho governor of an island, actually a village, or setting up quests where Don Quixote thinks he's saving princesses. Surprisingly, Sancho proves a fair and capable governor, earning respect. However, Don Quixote slowly realizes the world doesn't match his chivalric tales. Defeated by a fake knight, arranged by his friends, and forced to abandon knighthood for a year, he returns home. Gradually, he sheds his delusions, reverting to Alonso Quixano. In his final days, he admits his folly in living a fantasy, urges Sancho to live practically, and dies in sorrow. The ending blends humor with tragedy, themes, and significance. Don Quixote is more than a comedy about a mad old man. It's a profound exploration of the line between dreams and reality, ideals and pragmatism. Dreams versus reality. Don Quixote lives in a chivalric fantasy, but the real world is harsh and unjust. Cervantes uses his naivety to both mock and celebrate those who dare to dream big. Friendship and loyalty. The bond between Don Quixote and Sancho is the story's heart. Despite their differences, they complement each other and grow together. Social satire. Cervantes critiques outdated chivalric ideals while questioning the value of ideals in a pragmatic world. Why Don Quixote is iconic. Innovation. As the first modern novel, it broke from medieval storytelling with its meta-narrative. Part 2 references Part 1 as a real book. Humor and humanity. It makes you laugh, Don Quixote versus windmills, and cry, his final awakening. Universality. Everyone has chased a crazy dream like Don Quixote, only to face reality's hard truths. With an estimated 500 million copies sold, Don Quixote is not just a bestseller, but a cultural monument, influencing everything from modern novels to films. Why Don Quixote sold so many copies. Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes, with an estimated 500 million copies sold, is the best-selling novel of all time, excluding religious or political texts. Its remarkable success can be attributed to its literary innovation, universal appeal, cultural impact, historical context, global reach, and timeless value. Below are the key reasons. 1. Literary innovation. The first modern novel. Published in 1605, Part 1, and 1615, Part 2, Don Quixote is considered the first modern novel, marking a shift from medieval storytelling to complex narratives. Complex narrative. Unlike the linear epics or chivalric tales of its time, it blends humor, tragedy, and philosophy, following a delusional knight who grows through his journey. Metafiction. In Part 2, characters are aware of the book about their adventures, referencing Part 1, a groundbreaking narrative technique. Deep characters. Don Quixote and Sancho Panza are flawed, relatable figures with psychological depth, setting a new standard for character development. This innovation made Don Quixote a sensation upon release, continually reprinted and studied as the foundation of the modern novel. 2. Universal appeal, a story for everyone. The tale of Don Quixote, a man chasing an impossible dream despite reality's challenges, resonates across generations and cultures. Dreams versus reality. Don Quixote's pursuit of chivalric ideals, only to face a harsh world, mirrors universal experiences of ambition and disillusionment. Friendship and humanity. The evolving bond between the idealistic Don Quixote and pragmatic Sancho Panza adds emotional depth, appealing to readers of all backgrounds. Accessible humor. Scenes like Don Quixote battling windmills are funny and easy to understand, requiring no specialized knowledge. Its universal themes ensure that readers from diverse contexts connect with the story, driving continuous sales. 3. Cultural and literary influence. Don Quixote is a cultural phenomenon, shaping literature, art, and thought worldwide. Literary influence. It inspired authors like Dostoevsky, Kafka, and Gabriel Garcia Marquez, shaping genres from Romanticism to postmodernism. Social satire. By mocking outdated chivalric ideals, it raises timeless questions about the value of ideals in a practical world, appealing to both casual readers and scholars. Cultural icon. The image of Don Quixote fighting windmills symbolizes dreamers who defy reality, appearing in paintings, musicals, Man of La Mancha, and films. Its pervasive influence has made it a staple in education and culture, boosting its readership globally. 4. Historical context and early popularity. Don Quixote was published during a pivotal time, leveraging the rise of the printing press in Europe. Spain's golden age. As a global power in the 17th century, Spain's cultural output, including Don Quixote, spread across Europe and the Americas. Novelty. Unlike formulaic chivalric romances, its blend of humor and depth captivated everyone from royalty to commoners. Part 2 boost. A pirated sequel by another author prompted Cervantes to release Part 2, increasing the book's fame and sales. This early popularity, fueled by the printing boom, laid the groundwork for its massive sales over centuries. 5. Global reach through translations. Translated into over 140 languages, Don Quixote has reached readers worldwide. Cultural adaptability. Its humor and humanity resonate across cultures. Japanese readers see Don Quixote as a lost samurai, Americans as a dreamy cowboy. Educational presence. Included in school curricula globally, it ensures new generations read it, especially in Spain, where it's a national treasure. Continuous adaptations. From classic editions to ebooks, films, plays, and cartoons, the story remains accessible in various formats. Its global translations, educational use, and adaptations have sustained sales for over 400 years. 6. Timeless value. Don Quixote remains relevant because its core question, is it worth chasing dreams, endures across eras. Historical appeal. In the 17th century, it satirized chivalric culture, In the 19th century, Romantics saw Don Quixote as an idealist. Today, he represents those who dare to be different. Balanced appeal. It combines entertainment, humor, with philosophy, depth, attracting both casual readers and academics. Its timeless relevance ensures that Don Quixote continues to be read, studied, and loved, contributing to its extraordinary sales. Conclusion. Don Quixote's 500 million copies sold stem from its groundbreaking narrative, universal story, profound cultural impact, early popularity, global translations, and enduring relevance. More than a book, it's a reflection of human dreams and struggles, making it a literary monument that resonates across centuries. How Don Quixote influenced modern literature. Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes, published in 1605 and 1615, is not only a bestseller with roughly 500 million copies sold, but also a cornerstone that shaped modern literature. Its impact spans narrative techniques, character development, themes, and genres, influencing countless authors and styles worldwide. Below are the key ways it transformed modern literature. 1. Birth of the modern novel. Don Quixote is widely regarded as the first modern novel, breaking from the linear storytelling of medieval epics and chivalric tales. Complex narrative. Unlike simple heroic stories, Don Quixote blends humor, tragedy, and philosophy, creating a multi-layered tale of a delusional knight who evolves through his journey. This influenced 18th and 19th century novels like Tom Jones by Henry Fielding and Tristram Shandy by Lawrence Sterne, which adopted its flexible, mixed-tone storytelling. Metafiction. In Part 2, Don Quixote and Sancho know about a book detailing their adventures, a self-referential technique that anticipates postmodern literature. Authors like Italo Calvino in If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler, and Salman Rushdie in Midnight's Children used similar devices, drawing from Cervantes' innovation. Satire. By mocking outdated chivalric ideals, Don Quixote paved the way for modern satirical novels. Works like Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift and Catch 22 by Joseph Heller reflect its use of humor to critique society. For example, Franz Kafka cited Don Quixote as an inspiration for crafting characters torn between dreams and reality, as seen in the Metamorphosis. 2. Complex, relatable characters. Don Quixote revolutionized character development, moving from idealized heroes to flawed, human figures. Multidimensional characters. Don Quixote is both laughable for fighting windmills and tragic for awakening from his dreams. Sancho Panza grows from a greedy peasant to a loyal friend and just governor. This depth inspired modern characters like Holden Caulfield in The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, a rebellious yet vulnerable teen. Psychological depth. Cervantes explores Don Quixote's mind, showing his delusions as both foolish and noble. This shaped psychological novels like Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, where Raskolnikov grapples with guilt and ideals. Contrasting pairs. The dynamic between the dreamy Don Quixote and practical Sancho created a model for contrasting duos. Examples include Sherlock Holmes and Watson in Arthur Conan Doyle's stories, or Vladimir and Estragon in Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. For instance, Gabriel Garcia Marquez called Don Quixote his first literary friend for teaching him to write about characters living between reality and fantasy, as in 100 Years of Solitude. 3. Universal themes. Dreams versus reality. The core theme of Don Quixote, the struggle between ideals and reality, became a foundation for modern literature. Pursuit of ideals. Don Quixote chases chivalric dreams despite a harsh world, a theme echoed in The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, where Gatsby pursues love and wealth only to fail. Ambiguity of dreams. Cervantes both mocks and honors Don Quixote's courage, influencing romantic and existential works like Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert, where the protagonist escapes reality through illusions. Individual freedom. Don Quixote's defiance of societal norms inspired modern stories of individuals against systems, such as 1984 by George Orwell or On a Road by Jack Kerouac. Milan Kundera, in The Unbearable Lightness of Being, said Don Quixote posed the central question of modern novels. How do we live true to ourselves in an imperfect world? 4. Shaping literary genres. Don Quixote not only defined the novel, but also birthed several modern genres. Adventure novels. Don Quixote and Sancho's humorous quests influenced adventure tales like The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, where Huck and Jim face unexpected events. Picaresque novels. The wandering protagonist meeting diverse characters sparked the picaresque genre, seen in Moll Flanders by Daniel Defoe or The Catcher in the Rye. Magical realism. The blend of reality and fantasy in Don Quixote laid groundwork for Latin American magical realism in works like Love in the Time of Cholera by Marquez or The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. Postmodern literature. Its metafiction and satire inspired postmodern authors like Jorge Luis Borges in Fictions and Umberto Eco in The Name of the Rose. For example, Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, with its nonlinear narrative and war satire, reflects Don Quixote's rule-breaking storytelling. 5. Global literary impact. Translated into over 140 languages, Don Quixote influenced literature across continents. Europe. In Russia, Dostoevsky drew from Don Quixote for the Idiot, featuring an idealistic hero in a cynical world. In France, Flaubert called Cervantes the father of the French novel. Latin America. Magical realism, a hallmark of Latin American literature, stems from Don Quixote's mix of real and fantastical. Authors like Marquez, Allende, and Julio Cortázar acknowledged their debt to Cervantes. Asia. In Japan, Don Quixote resonated as a lost samurai, influencing novelists like Haruki Murakami, who explores dreams in Kafka on the shore. In his Nobel Prize speech, Marquez said Don Quixote taught him that literature lets us live multiple lives in one, shaping his writing style. 6. Legacy in education and scholarship. Don Quixote's inclusion in global curricula ensures its ongoing influence. Education. A required text in schools from Spain to the U.S., inspires new writers. Western literature courses often cite Don Quixote as the starting point of the modern novel. Scholarship. Critics like Sigmund Freud, who analyzed Don Quixote's psyche, and Harold Bloom, who praised its humanity, have produced thousands of essays, keeping the book alive academically. Harold Bloom, in the Western canon, called Don Quixote the book that sparked all modern novels, cementing its role in literary studies. Conclusion. Don Quixote shaped modern literature by pioneering complex novels, crafting multidimensional characters, exploring universal themes, and inspiring genres from adventure to postmodernism. Its influence spans authors like Dostoevsky and Marquez in styles like magical realism and satire. Translated into over 140 languages and widely studied, Don Quixote is not just a novel, but a guide for storytelling and understanding humanity. It made modern literature richer, more diverse, and vibrant. Above is my summary and analysis of Don Quixote. If you have any comments or feedback, please feel free to leave them below. Subscribe to the channel to see the latest posts.